This video is an updated version talking about how to complete assignment number 2, economic-based analysis of a local community, especially given that county business pattern, the data retrieving methods have changed over the Census Bureau. So I think it's necessary for me to cover the updated census county business pattern data retrieval in this video. So basically, it's due October 12th, and those are just some basic guidelines about what your format of the report should be. And then the structure of the report, just like the first one. And also, please pay attention to my comments that I gave to you from the first one, and hopefully you will not make the same mistake in this assignment. So basically, you should have key sections. For example, those sections, executive summary, the main findings should be in the section, introduction, briefly introduce the county's economic characteristics, and then mention that it will focus on economic-based analysis by using the census data, and then briefly explain your methodology. And in this data, in this assignment, we're going to use the data called county business patterns that I mentioned in some live lectures and also in the pre-recorded lectures. So basically, you click the link in the PDF file of the assignment guideline, and then you go to the county business pattern. And this is a county business pattern. Then you go to data and go to the CBP tables, and you choose the most recent. You can choose other years, but the most recent would be preferred. So you go to here, then you go to CBP tables 2018. And this is for the US. You really don't want that. So that means you click geographies. And then I want a county, and I want, for example, I want a county in Florida, and I want maybe Alachua County, Florida. And then I close it, and you will see the default of the US has been replaced by the county you selected. And then some of you ask me questions, how do I choose among all those? Because it has the total for all sectors and all establishments and stuff like that, okay? So in this case, you only focus on the all establishments, this column, this row, all establishments, and then you look at the number of employees, all payrolls. Later, we need a payroll number as well. So make sure you have at least annual payroll and number of employees downloaded only for this row, all establishments, all establishments, all establishments, okay? And all establishments. And just make sure the NAICS code, which is North American Industrial Classification System, make sure the NAICS code corresponds to the industry that you need. So that's how you get the data. And then you want a Florida's data, you just change your geography, and then you go to state, and you go to Florida, and you get rid of Alachua County if you don't want, okay? Or if you want to just download the huge table of the county and the state Florida and then try to clean the data in Excel, it's okay to do that as well. But this is Florida, and then you close it. And then you also choose the all establishment, make sure, okay? Make sure, should be all sectors. Make sure this would be all establishments. Should be this one, okay? So that means you have to look at the meaning of legal form of organization and look at all establishments, okay? Make sure, please, make sure. Oh, not this one, actually this one. So make sure all of them. The first one is all total for all sectors, all establishments, and all establishments. Make sure satisfies all the three criteria, so that you can get the payroll data and employee data. And you can even filter the data, okay? So depending on which ones you want to have, depending on which one you want to have, or you can hide. You can hide the columns, okay? And then after that, you can download the table, or you can just put a number. You know, if you want to just look at this and just put a number into the spreadsheet, I'm going to cover in a minute. So it's up to you. Either you download table into Excel, then you try to retrieve the data for all establishment and all establishment and total for all sectors. And then, or you can just directly keep this table open and then open your Excel file and directly plug those numbers into your Excel file. Especially if you have two monitors. If you don't have, maybe just write down the numbers and then just put those numbers into Excel. So two ways to do it, either in Excel or just manually input the numbers directly into the spreadsheet. Okay, now let me briefly look at the spreadsheet. Oh, you have to do rows diagram and some other things. The rows diagram, I mentioned it in the lecture notes already, but if you don't know how to create it, and I'll kind of briefly go over that, okay? So this one I already plugged the numbers, but you know, it's just those are real numbers, okay? But the year is different. The year is different. So this just give you an idea, and you have to replace those numbers and those numbers. And then after calculated the location quotient, don't change this row. Keep the formula. Don't do anything with this, not this row, this column. And then after you calculate, you have to make sure the yes and no, you have to change to your own yes and no based on your calculated location quotient. Don't just use my form, okay? Because my form is specifically focused on the numbers in 2000. And I use Florida versus the national, okay? And in your assignment, it's the county versus Florida. It's the same logic. Just replace them and replace those and replace here. And then calculate, replace those columns and then replace this, okay? And if you want to if you want to create a rows diagram, I would try to hide some columns. Like for example, I hide this column and I hide this column, right click, and then I have location quotient, and then I just select industry and location quotient, and I go to insert charts, and I want all charts, and then I go to radar diagram, and just select the radar diagram. And then once you have this, you can just make format, change the title, or change the font size, change the color, background, whatever you want to change, okay? So this is how you create the radar or rows diagram. Okay, and this is location quotient method. This is assumption method. Assumption method, you just simply replace the small area, the county's employment here, and then based on assumption, you just assume them and then calculate those, okay? And those are all formulas. But in the location quotient approach, you have to be careful because the basic approach, if it's in assumption approach, basic is basic. You just move it here. Non-basic, it's non-basic. You directly move the numbers here. So you don't have to worry about this in the assumption approach. You only need to replace those and then things will be calculated for you. But in the location quotient approach, you gotta be careful a little bit. The basic employment versus non-basic. You have to be a little bit careful, okay? So if it's a basic, yes, and then you have to split based on this formula, okay? And then split the basic job versus non-basic job in this formula. If it's not basic, you directly, actually, let me hide the columns. So, so if it's non-basic, you just directly put the non-basic. But if it's basic, you have to follow the formulas to split the employment, okay, based on the formula. And then the simple combination approach. Basically, if it's basic assumption approach, if it's basic location approach, yes, it's basic. And then you have all the jobs directly move, all the jobs directly move to the basic sector. And if assumption approach is basic, location says no, it's still basic. And then you directly move the basic job into here. However, if it's assumption is non-basic, location quotient is basic, you have to use the formula to split basic and non-basic jobs. And if the assumptions is non-basic, location quotient says non-basic, then it's non-basic. You directly move the non-basic jobs into non-basic. So you have to deliberately customize those values based on your location quotient and basic approaches, assumption approaches. Assumption approach and location quotient approach, you combine them both together and then you customize those values, okay? So those are some of the pitfalls you have to be careful about. You don't just simply move my numbers in this template. You don't simply just keep the numbers in my template or keep the those in my template. You have to change them accordingly based on your real data. And then you write about the base multiplier, like what I said in the lecture that I recorded and also the pre-recorded lectures. If this is the base multiplier, that means one basic job will create about 2.936 non-basic jobs. It's roughly around 3 non-basic jobs because you round them up a little bit because oftentimes jobs cannot be split. You can say create roughly around one basic job, created roughly around 2.9 non-basic jobs. That's okay. But if you want to round to 3, that's okay as well. Okay, so that concludes assignment number 2, and let me know if you have any questions.